G'day mates! In today's video, I want to talk about the new update, including the huge news that the Combat SMG has been completely vaulted from the game. We have a new anti-cheat being added that has private discords and sellers of cheats pretty much giving up and retiring, saying this anti-cheat is going to ruin their cheats. Also, we had the news that Saf, yes, as in Zate and Saf, is unretiring and returning to competitive Fortnite and streaming all of FNCS with a very unexpected duo. I also want to talk about the rest of the update. We have the Porter Fort coming back to the game. We have this new Charge SMG and a whole bunch more. Let's just jump into it. Slight disclaimer, I'm on holidays right now. I will be back for FNCS, but I'm recording this video. That's why it sounds different and I have no face cam because I'm in a hotel and my camera broke on the plane. Just a heads up. Before I talk about the rest of the update, let's kick off with the biggest news, the vaulting of the Combat SMG. Now, this one really took me by surprise, and that's for two main reasons. Firstly, the fact that it was taken out of the public playlist and not just the competitive playlist as well. And secondly, after now 3 seasons of incredibly powerful SMGs, especially last season, when they added the Combat SMG that was even more powerful than the Stinger SMG a lot of people complained about, I just kind of started to accept that it looks like all of Chapter 3 is going to be a spray meta, and Epic really likes these SMGs. So to see this vaulted, and again, it's not a surprise, only a few days out from FNCS, it did shock me. I am interested by the fact they took it out of the regular playlist as well, because whatever your thoughts are on Epic splitting the loot pool from competitive and pubs, whether they should be doing this, whether they should be taking out all the items like the shockwaves and the heavy snipers, I've talked about my thoughts on it. I do want some more fun things in competitive, and I want to see them play around with more balancing items rather than just vaulting them. When they do normally just vault things out of competitive when they don't like them for competitive, I have to imagine Epic has some level of information that even casuals are starting to not enjoy the SMGs, or at least the Combat SMG, because they didn't just vault it from competitive, and they've been vaulting a lot of items from competitive and keeping them in the public matches. So I don't know, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Whether you're a competitive player or a casual player, are you happy the SMG's been taken out? Because I think we've been making these videos for quite a while and talking about this topic, but clearly something has changed that Epic can see, that even casuals are no longer liking the Combat SMG on the majority. I'm sure some of you guys watching still loved, and you're going to be upset. It was your way to take down the kids who are sweating, and I get that, but it seems like it's been received pretty well. Hypex's tweet had over 20,000 likes, and a lot of Hypex's community on Twitter are casual. So I want to hear what you guys think about this one, but it's going to have a very big impact on competitive especially. Of course, we still have the Stinger SMG, but it is far weaker than the Combat SMG. It's more powerful than SMGs in previous seasons, so we haven't just gone away from a spray meta, but it is going to be a lot more diminished now, and especially on spawn fighting. But when there was 2 SMGs in the game, in every rarity, you almost always found one within your first few guns, which again, if you didn't find one, you were at a pretty big disadvantage. So I'm excited to see how this is going to change things up. As someone who's made videos on this in the past, I am happy to see the Combat SMG go away. I'm always a bigger fan of shotgun heavy metas over SMGs, but I just don't think there needed to be 2. I think the Stinger SMG is still really powerful, and especially with the Combat SMG being taken out, people are going to get overconfident that the SMGs aren't as powerful. They're going to make silly plays, and you can still abuse the SMGs if that fits your playstyle, but now I think it's much closer to being a balanced version of that. If you now take someone down with the Stinger SMG in a close range fight against the striker that does a lot of damage, I'm going to argue more you've earned it. Where in the Combat SMG, you have to admit, it was getting a little bit cheesier. At least I think it is as well. So this was the first big news that came out of this update, but I'm gonna say it surprised me. Next up, we had the addition of the Charge SMG, and I think this might be why Epic took the Combat SMG out of public matches as well, because having 3 SMGs was going to be a little bit ridiculous. But the Charge SMG, as far as what I've seen, again, like I said, I'm on holidays, I haven't been able to play the game, it looks not so great. And again, let me know in the comments if maybe you figured out a way to use it really well, but to me, it just doesn't fit what an SMG should be. If I'm about to use an SMG, I want to either switch to it after I've shot my shotgun and I want to do a finish up shot, so I want it to shoot really quickly, or I'm going to pull it out and try and cheese someone by spraying through the wall. As soon as they go for an edit, I'm going to jump on them. I just want that really quick fire rate quickly. I don't want to have to wait for it to fire quickly. So I don't really know how the charge SMG is supposed to fit. It's only in public matches, so obviously I break down these weapons a lot less when you don't have to deal with them in competitive, because they are just a little bit of fun. They're a little bit crazy, but I really don't think this is going to be a fun or crazy weapon to use. I can see most people just only using it if it's the only weapon they find, and as soon as they find almost anything else, they're going to use that. But again, it's only been out for a day. Maybe I've just seen some people who are bad with it who aren't just using it properly, but just at a theory level, I don't understand the point of this gun. Before I talk about the rest of the public update, I want to talk about one of the biggest changes they made that almost no one knows about. We now have a new anti-cheat being added to Fortnite that is apparently far better than the previous ones. So much so that Hypex DM'd me personally to let me know how this new anti-cheat was working, because it looks so ridiculous. First off, the anti-cheat name is Hyperion and it's made by Bifron. Bifron is made by ex-Vanguard devs, and Hyperion basically protects the game like Valorant. If you've played Valorant but you've seen the anti-cheat, it is phenomenal. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Fortnite anti-cheat. It's terrible at the moment. Everyone's hacking, and it does look like there's been a very, very big rise of cheaters over the last couple years. I myself personally would still argue that I've been playing the game for 4 years and almost never ran into a cheater, which is incredibly rare, and Epic should be commended for that. But clearly in tournaments and competitive playlists, a lot of cheaters are making it through. But I actually got told by Hypex that I needed to go to a Twitter account called Anti-Cheat PD, who was sharing information from different Discords and social medias of cheat creators and how upset they are that Epic has added this anti-cheat, to the point where people are basically saying if you bought a lifetime membership or you bought these cheats, they are now essentially useless. And a lot of people were asking or saying that Epic should have waited until closer to grand finals to then release this anti-cheat, because now cheat makers have time to kind of get around it. But from what I've seen, this anti-cheat is phenomenal, and they're not replacing the existing anti-cheat with it, they're adding it on top. So all the levels of protection we've already had are there, but it looks like this new anti-cheat is going to be even better to catch those blatant hackers. I talked about it in a recent video. People are even going so far as to hack in arena just to get arena points quickly, but pretty much every single cash cup you've seen someone cheating. And no, this isn't going to stop a lot of the issues we're having at the moment with other people using hardware cheats. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I've talked about that in the past, but I think this is going to catch a lot of those really, really blatant cheaters. Again, I don't understand anti-cheat software too well myself, but if I'm seeing cheat developers in their private Discords start crying out for help or complaining, that means it's doing something. Next big news, we have the return and unretirement of one of the biggest players in Fortnite's history that I'm actually quite surprised, and coming back under very interesting circumstances. We have Faxity announcing the unretirement or the return of Saf. Again, yes, that is Saf as in Zayt and Saf. He's coming back to play FNCS with Faxity. So this could be very interesting content. He's even gone so far as to say he will be streaming all of the tournaments as well. He is going to be playing on NA West then, not NA East, but all I know is this is going to be absolutely phenomenal to watch. It looks like he's coming back mostly from a content perspective. Faxity was looking for a player to play with, going so far as to say he would pay a pro to play with him to make some cool content and try to see how far he could push this upcoming FNCS. Little did he know he was going to be bringing back one of, if not the all-time GOAT himself, Saf. So I'm really excited to watch this. I don't know, I'm really thinking they probably could make grand finals and go quite far with this. Faxity does get clowned a lot, but he has very, very good mechanics. When you pair that with one of, if not the most experienced competitive players, it's going to be sick to watch. Either way, we are going to be able to watch Saf play the most recent upcoming FNCS, and after big retirements from some of the top players like Benji Fishy, it did really make me excited. We also had the addition of a POI we were already warned about coming. The temple that is down near the kind of gas station and near Rocky area has now turned into the Shuffled Shrine. So we've added a new POI to the map. Overall, it doesn't look like it's going to have a huge impact. This is not a super broken POI. We didn't just have like the collider up here mid-season like we had last season. So coming into competitive, it is adding another POI to the map, but the shrine that was there had, I would say, less loot, but it still had a good amount of loot at it. And I think this POI is similar. It probably could fit an entire duo, and I'm gonna guess, and it looks like a lot of competitive players are looking to go there as a new drop spot. It is still towards the edge of the map, but the biggest impact I think it's gonna have is on already established teams like Kami and Seti that are dropping in that Kami split area, because it's now just populating that bottom southeast area of the map. Any Clicks fans as well, I think this actually could be a very good thing for Clicks and Dukes if they are still going to be playing together for FNCS. If they're dropping Jones, it adds another team around that area to get Surge on, which was Clicks' biggest issue issue out of Jones's last season. So I think it'll have a bit of an impact by attracting an extra team, but it's not going to change the entire game. It's not a drop spot that all the tier 1 pros are now trying to switch their drop to last minute like the Collider, but it's added some more loot and it's another spot that someone can go. I was hoping that in this most recent update, there was going to be some kind of big change to server performance. If you guys have seen the clips right now, we have more bugs in the game and the servers are looking arguably the worst they've ever looked, except for maybe like skirmish days, like the very beginning of competitive. But since then, since we've had a proper fleshed out competitive scene, the game has never ran worse. We now have bugs where people are now just drowning. They swim under the map and they literally just drown. We still have people, you know, in the complete open on the enemy screen, but on their screen, they're inside a full base. They are just getting beamed. We have players not connecting to the games at an alarming rate. Like in some of the set lobbies right now, we have 10 or more players every single game not loading in while their teammate does. That's 10% of the lobby. We have FNCS starting in less than 2 days. I think Middle East FNCS has already started. So much so that a lot of pros are calling for FNCS to be delayed. I was considering talking about it, but there's just no way Epic is going to delay the FNCS 2 days out, and that would mess up plans for a lot of people. So unfortunately, I think we are just going into FNCS with this many bugs in the game. And I know a lot of people are used to hearing competitive pro players complain about lag, and I've always been the one arguing that Epic does a lot. Like what Epic requires with all the building, the editing, the shooting, it is insane. But the fact we are going backwards is what's concerning. Epic has proven that the game can handle this much going on, but whatever it is right now, whether it's the new rotating PYs, whether it's, you know, the new giant tree, whether it's just Unreal Engine 5, something has gone wrong where the game right now, at least competitively when there's that many players in the lobby, is running the worst it's ever been. So I don't really know what this means for FNCS. Hopefully we can get some kind of a performance or stability update mid FNCS, but right now it's going to be interesting. Other than having the new Charge SMG in public matches, not competitive, we also have the Portafort being added back to the game, which should be really interesting, especially for zero builds. I don't know how that's going to go in zero builds, we'll see, but a lot of people have been asking for these kind of items to be added specifically for zero builds, and shield bubbles and smoke grenades and things like that. So it's interesting to see that Epic is adding items that are specifically for zero builds. If you read the actual notes, they said zero building is required as the fort will arise on its own. So they are mentioning that this was put into the game with zero builds in mind. So I'm excited to see how that plays, especially into the competitive zero build scene. I haven't really seen too much from the players like Tifu, Zemi, who are playing the no builds competitive scene very seriously. I'm sure it's gonna be one of those items that is either beloved or absolutely hated, so we'll see how that plays out. Also, the Ripsaw has been added into pubs permanently, so we've had a few new items into pubs, and again, they're wacky, they're crazy, they're fun. It looks like it's gonna spice things up, but none of them have gone into competitive. All right, guys, that does it for another video. If you enjoyed, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.